is the Pegasus Podcast, presented by Night Sports Now. UCF news, views, and a few hot takes. Now, here are your hosts, Bailey Go Knights Adams and Christian Charge On Simmons.
Welcome into episode 273. Be sure you're following us on Twitter at BaileyJAdams22, at @ByCASimmons, at Night Sports Now, and at Pegasus Podcast. You can also email us at PegasusPodcast@ksn@gmail.com. Welcome back to us. Christian, how's it going? It's been a long time.
Welcome back to us. Bailey, we have not done a podcast in so long because of you. You went on vacation.
Yes. I miss it.
For a second, I thought you meant you missed the pod, and then I realized that's just not what you meant.
No.
You missed the vacation. Welcome back to this incredibly difficult thing we do where we host a podcast once a week. We have been out so long that UCF does not even wear the same uniforms that they wore when our break started. And yes. I just think that's amazing. Happy UCF Uniform Reveal Day to you, Bailey.
Happy UCF Uniform Reveal Day to you, too. I actually was going to ask you, did you really have trouble sleeping last night?
Okay, I want to be clear about this because I feel like people sometimes think I play up the uniform stuff. I've gotten that feedback. Guys, I wish I played up the uniform stuff. I really do. Bailey, I genuinely got maybe 4 hours of sleep last night. And I kept what would happen is like, do you ever get the thing like, do you dream more vividly when you're not sleeping well? I don't know if that's just because like I'm waking up more, so I'm remembering the dreams, or I don't know.
I don't know how to answer that question. I don't know, actually.
Okay, I don't know. I just I don't know. If you're listening and that happens to you, congrats, you're not alone. If you're listening, you don't know what I'm talking about. It just means that I'm insane. But when I am not sleeping well and I wake up, I always remember the dreams. I guess because I just woke up, I was dreaming about the uniforms constantly. And of course, they're dreams. I swear to God, man. And of course, they're dreams, so they don't really make sense. Like I had one dream that I remember where this doesn't make sense, but they moved the Pegasus from the sleeves to the helmet. But then the sleeves were just empty, and I didn't understand why they would have done that. I had another dream where they were unveiling them in my high school, where I went to high school, and it was in some room that doesn't actually exist at the high school. I just knew it was my high school, and I couldn't get into the room, and I was freaking out because I wasn't going to see them. I had another dream where they were just space uniforms. I seriously, Bailey, none of this is a joke. I swear to God, this is what my.
I always find this is. I didn't really see this going this way, but I always find this. I didn't think this was a sentence I'd ever say on the podcast, but I always find it so weird that when you're having dreams, your brain will just place you in and not in the right context, but it'll just place you in some place you've been before.
Yes.
Why do we all have dreams where we're just something's happening and it's happening at our elementary school or something like that? It doesn't make any sense
when you haven't even thought about it for years. In some cases, do you ever have in your dreams someone will show up in your dream, a person from your life that not even necessarily an important person in your life, they're just there, and I'm what the hell are you? And
it happens.
But yeah, yes, I did genuinely lose sleep. But at 9:30 a.m. sharp this morning, we finally got a look at UCF's brand new uniforms, moving on from the 2022 to 2024 uniforms. This is a very special day to me. Literally just the third time in the last decade where UCF's done a full redesign. And I'm super happy with them. Spoiler alert. I'm sure you all are shocked by that. That I'm really happy with the uniforms. But I think my biggest takeaway, and we'll go ahead and have a YouTube account, which we didn't have last time we did this. Well, we don't have a YouTube account. We jump onto the Suns. We can actually show some photos. So they're really freaking good uniforms, man. I think what is unique about them is that it's always hard to nail any kind of redesign, whether it's a refresh or a redesign, because for the record, UCF, I don't think they're ever going to do a full uniform teardown again. I think when they switched from the 2013 to 2015 uniforms to the 2016 ones, they really found their identity and they've stuck with that. And this is more of the next evolution of that than a full-on teardown. What's rare that I think they pulled off, and correct me if you disagree or if people on social media are disagreeing, I haven't seen a ton of it. I think every change they made was for the better. I don't think any change has been oh, wow, well, that was a downgrade, which I know some people were upset with details from the 2016 to 21s to the 2022s. I'm not seeing that on this. It feels like every single change was for the better.
Yeah, it was funny because you texted me and you were what are your thoughts? And I was I think every change they made, I think I said those words, every change they made has been for the better. I really like this set a lot. And I did not like the last set, but we've talked about it on the podcast, the white ones, especially from the last set, it was so hard to see the Pegasus on the sleeve. The numbers, I wasn't a big fan of the numbers on any of them. Obviously, I preferred the previous number font, obviously, and I know they went to their what did I forget what they called it? Was it just a knighted font? I think it was. And so I didn't like that last one. I everything now. I love this new number font. I love the detail behind it, and yeah, I'm a fan.
Why don't we start with the numbers then? Because these are the two. So the photo we have up now. If you're listening to audio, it's going to be rough for you. Sorry. We'll do our best we can to describe this. The photo you've seen them. If you're listening to this and you haven't seen them, then you're either about to click out because you don't care or you know what we're talking about. UCF Equipment posted this photo, and I love when we just get straight up side by sides by this. It's the jersey from the last few years compared to the new jersey, and the numbers are the big takeaway. And without a doubt, I think it's fair to say, right, that was the biggest criticism point of the previous iteration was the number change. Yeah, and the great thing about this new number font is it has married you, the fan base's interest, with my interest. I was cool with the number font change last time around because I was really in on the idea of having a real custom in-house number font. And UCF's older font was not necessarily that. It was kind of a takeoff of existing fonts. But I also understand, and I think I'd even discount at the time, like, it's like experiences in your brain. It's like forming grooves in a record. Like, people had just associated that, like, sharp pointed font with UCF for so long because they've been wearing some version of it for so long that losing that completely, I think just it rattled people and it felt too different. And that's why what I love about what UCF did here was that this new number font, which is freaking awesome, by the way. I haven't seen a word anyone has said against this number font. I think this is the biggest home run of all uniforms. It looks UCF. It's got those traditional sort of, I don't know what you want to call them, like slash marks or whatever.
Yeah.
It still maintains some of the identity of the knighted font. And UCF released this awesome background on these numbers, which is why I love UCF. Guys, I can't overstate to you how many teams in college football and sports in general, they design uniforms and it's just them playing around in Photoshop. They're just like, that looks good. Let's do that. UCF puts so much meaning into every aspect of this. And what's cool about this number font is it is marrying every major era of UCF football. You've got the drop shadow, which I freaking love and was not expecting any capacity. That's calling back to the Culpepper era. You've got the notches that came in with Blake Bortles. You've got the larger. Look how much larger these numbers are than on the current uniform. Freaking crazy. They look twice the size. And that's kind of back to the 2016-17 uniforms we all loved. And it's still maintaining sort of the base of the knighted font. Bringing that all together and coming up with a font like this, I freaking love it. I mean, this is like, in many ways, the number is like the heart of a jersey. And it's like, these are so freaking cool. And TV numbers are back too on the shoulders as well.
Yeah, it's kind of told me or taught me, like, in my, I don't know, as I've kind of reflected on this a little bit, it just makes me realize that my brain doesn't work that way. Like, my brain, I think there's certain ways, like, I can be creative, but if you were to ask me, like, hey, create a number font that, like, kind of just combines some elements from all these other ones, I would be like, I don't think that's something that's actually possible to do. I think you're asking me to do an impossible task, and yet they did it. And I love, I don't know, anytime it's a thing that obviously every year with the space uniforms, they drop it. Like, I love when they tell a story with the uniforms, and I love that every aspect of it has an explanation and is kind of has a unique detail to it. And seeing that about each era of again being represented in the numbers, like that's, and it's not just kind of like, oh, a throwaway, like, yeah, like here's how we can tie it, like just loosely. It's all there.
Oh yeah, they're not reverse engineering, because schools have done that, guys. Yeah. Schools will look at a uniform that they make and they just make it, and they'll be like, how can we tie this into what already exists? That's not what UCF does. You literally feel the elements coming together from each of these eras, and it's just I'm obsessed with them. I hope they stick with this number font for a long time. The other thing, I'll go back to the jersey comparison because I feel like this is good. I don't know if the gold is darker or if it's just the drop shadow or what, but this gold is a lot more striking on the jerseys than the old gold. You can see it right there, and we talked about this
thicker.
Yeah, that's a drop shadow, but it's on the older ones, as you can see right there, and you can see it on the older white ones too. One of the issues, which I think is part of why sometimes the numbers look like thinner or not quite right to some fans, was like the gold and the white were so similar that if you weren't close up, it all just looked like one. And I think that hurt the white uniforms in particular because it made the numbers look really skinny because it just looked like the gold outline was part of the white. That's not happening on these. Let me try to pull a photo with the white uniforms. We'll roll with this one. Why not?
Yeah.
I mean, look how much more that stands out. That is a nice. I mean, it's like the numbers hopping off the uniform. I think you're right that the whites are the biggest glow up to me. The white uniform, the white jerseys are really.
It doesn't really illustrate the point that I'm about to make exactly because we're looking at a picture of the guy wearing number 1, but like seeing a white jersey with like a double-digit number is going to be like a treat for the eyes, I feel like, because I feel like with that last set, especially when it was a single digit number, you would look at it and you'd be like, there is just so much white space. Like there's just so much space on this jersey, and it's really just like a skinny number, and it's just a bunch of whiteness. And that's where I think it also hurt that the Pegasus was so like not invisible, but it was hard. It was hard to see at times. So you were kind of just looking at pretty much just a white jersey with a skinny little number on it. Yeah. And that's changed with this set.
And TV numbers are helping that too, which I'm going to level with you guys completely. I was pro getting rid of TV numbers in 2022, and I was incorrect. I think that's why UCF added them back. I used to think that TV numbers cluttered a jersey. I thought you could have like a more streamlined, cleaner look, especially for blackouts and whiteouts without them. It just never came together that way. It felt like that was always, especially on the white jerseys, it just always kind of felt like just a little too much empty space. So I'm thrilled those are back too. I was wrong. You heard it here first. Christian was wrong about something.
Set off the confetti.
You talked about, let's not set off the confetti for being wrong. You talked about the Pegasus. Why don't we just transition into what I think is the only aspect of these that is even remotely controversial, and that would be the new shoulder design, which is, this is the best photo we have of it. There were many photos that of it close up, and I, for some reason, uploaded none of those. So we'll roll with this one, but I feel like you can still see it clearly. Isn't that kind of it right there? You can see it clearly in this photo.
Yeah.
I know that UCF fans have a very special attachment to the Pegasus. I do too. Everyone wanted that to stay on the sleeves. And it has sort of in a way, in an evolution. We've gone from the full Pegasus, which has been on there for the last 8 seasons, to the Pegasus. The wing design from the Pegasus is now making up the sleeves. It's a different texture now. It is much, much more visible. You can go on Twitter. I posted a side shot photo. I think a couple other people have. It is like night and day. You're going to be able to actually see this from the stands now. It's back to like more like what it was like in the 2016 era. How are we feeling, Bailey, about going with the wings versus the whole Pegasus?
I like it because I don't know if we did on the podcast, but back when was it 22 space uniforms? 23 space uniforms. Yeah, I have that jersey. Back when those dropped and after we saw them on the field and everything, you and I had conversations off the podcast about like, that looks like that design on the sleeve looks really good. And it's something that stuck out to me about those uniforms, and I like it. That's the one thing is like, I guess sometimes I have that like middle of the road opinion where it's just like, I'm like, yeah, that's cool. I like it. Like people will have some strong feelings one way or the other about this. Like I would have been fine seeing just a darker Pegasus, like a full Pegasus on these sleeves, but I also like the change. I like the wings. So I'm not upset about it. But if you are, I can see why. Like I like the Pegasus. So.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. I wouldn't have been like devastated if it was the full Pegasus. I would have been fine with that. I think part of why I like it is one, like you said, I wish I remember we talked on this podcast because that 2023 game happened. I remember us being like, ooh, like you see the Pegasus on the sleeve, the wings on the sleeves, and you're like, there might be something there. And I don't know if I remember being like, maybe they'll do an alternate with that or whatever. I'm good with it because I do think that UCF is all about moving forward and always has been. And I definitely don't ever want to feel like the uniforms have gotten stagnant. I think that was a complaint that some people had the last ones. It wasn't a complaint I agreed with, but it was a complaint that some people had. And I mean, if they had kept them, this would have been year 9 with basically identical sleeve designs. I'm fine taking it a different direction that still honors the Pegasus and keeps it front and center. It also just looks good. I think it looks, I know this is going to upset some people. I think it looks better to me than the full Pegasus on the sleeve. It looks more integrated.
I also do wonder a little bit, and I don't know if this was a conscious thing, but I kind of wonder if this will be some of the takeaway where it's like on the old sleeves, and I don't know if this was a conversation at all, but did the casual college football fan ever look at UCF's uniforms and be like, why do they have a Pegasus on the sleeve? Like, I don't know that the wider college football audience knows. Maybe they don't care, but I don't know if they know the importance or the significance of the Pegasus to UCF's brand as a university. And the thing is, like, it doesn't necessarily matter because all UCF fans do. But with this, you're still paying homage to it. You're still representing that. But it's kind of just like it can also be like it is a cool design. So there will be less of like a brand confusion thing. I don't know if there was, but you think there's anything to that?
Maybe. I mean, I'd go back. I'd argue that people might those fans might still look at this and just go, why are there wings on the Knights uniform? So like, I don't know if it fixes that problem, but I think that your point is why fans have always been so adamant that some form of the Pegasus remain on the uniform and why I'm glad that they kept it. Because they could have gone any way they wanted. They could, like, Night Mode doesn't have it, which is great because that's an alternate, but it's like they could have, done whatever and come up with something completely different. They could have put like, I don't even know what. Just the stack UCF logo. That's my biggest, guys. You know, I'm a big uniform guy. My biggest pet peeve in all of NFL and college football is when teams have a logo on their helmet and then they just repeat the logo on the sleeves. It drives me absolutely crazy.
We've talked about this off the podcast because Cincinnati had a uniform where they had that Bearcat C on it like 8 times. Was it 9 times?
9 different places on one uniform. They had that
crazy
Chick-fil-A logo. 9 different places. It's like it's like they were sponsoring their own uniform and were trying to get their money's worth. It was the stupidest thing I'd ever seen. But so I'm glad that they stuck with some version of it. And just to your point, I think that's why fans are so adamant about it, because it's for us. Like, it's a very notable element of the uniforms that is for UCF fans, because that Pegasus logo, it's the school seal. It means a ton to UCF fans and to the UCF community. And I think that I should go ahead and right now bring up one of the worst tweets I've ever seen while we're here.
It means a lot to the whole UCF community, except for maybe one person.
Except for one of the most notable fan accounts, who unfortunately is just tweeting nonsense today. Shareholder Sean, UCF Problems, you're familiar with him if you're on Twitter. I don't mean to, you know me. I don't like to call people out. That's a lie. I call them out.
That's what Tweet of the Week is for.
We really
dedicated to it.
This is one of those tweets that just it makes me regret that I retired Tweet of the Week for the summer, because boy did this earn it. Shareholder Sean tweeted. He said, "Serious question. ... Why do we use the Pegasus at all? It has nothing to do with anything." I'm gonna say this respectfully because he's a big part of UCF Twitter, and I appreciate his contribution to UCF society. How are you a UCF fan and asking what's the point of the Pegasus? It's like someone stole his account and tweeted that as a joke. I don't understand. I don't understand it from one of the bigger UCF fan accounts, how you can say, what's the point of the Pegasus?
I have to think that was – I still think it's a bad take, but I have to think that was just very poorly worded. I think he knows and understands the Pegasus. I think he kind of meant –
I'm not sure he does, because then he Googled Pegasus and posted a screenshot of it saying it's either a mythical creature, spyware, or referring to an airline. It's like he actually doesn't know. I'm so confused.
So, okay, wait, now, what does the tweet say again? Sorry, I don't know what we're
Someone also replied to him and said, "Educate yourself," which is always a great reply that calms things right down. And he replied, "It's the academic logo. Who cares?" That's a real didn't come here to play school. Yeah, who cares about the logo?
That's what I'm saying. Is I think he meant like it doesn't have anything to do with anything. I think he's talking about athletics, but I still think it's a bad take either way.
It's a really bad take, and I'm comfortable saying that it's the worst take I saw on Twitter today. And I'm not just talking about UCF. I'm talking about all of Twitter. And we had a Cleveland Cavaliers G League team take charge on today. So even with that, that's still the worst.
I almost included that in the news.
Yeah, well, we'll have to talk about that at some point. But yeah, I'm down with the Pegasus wings. I get people who are a little like, "Oh, I wanted the full Pegasus." That's fine. I'm cool if this is an evolution. I think you always got to move forward somehow. And I don't know, it just looks good.
Yeah.
Next big change. I think the big 3 changes were the new number font, the Pegasus wings, and the Polaris stars are freaking huge now.
Gigantic.
They're huge, man. If you're not watching YouTube, we're talking about the stars down the sides of the pants. You remember them? So the pants designs from 16 to 21 didn't include anything. They were just the pants color, and that was it. I was cool with that at the time because that lends itself to combos more easily if you're going to mix and match stuff. You don't want something that doesn't make sense there. Then last year they added 3 cute little Polaris stars on each side of the pants, which I thought, not last year in 2022 and for the last few years, I thought they were cool. I thought it was a nice touch. It never did occur to me that UCF might look at those and go, what if we quadrupled the size of them on our upcoming uniforms? And it's one of those things where once you see it, I'm like, oh, you know what? That makes sense, because the Polaris stars down the pants were a cool touch to us. It's not like you could see them in any meaningful way, right? Like there's no way you could see those from the stands. I don't even know if you pretty much have to be standing next to them. These will be noticed. These stars shall be noticed. Bailey, how are you feeling about the mega Polaris stars?
I like them because I don't think it was something that I ever really thought about from 16 to 21, that like the pants were just the pants. They were plain. And I actually, until you said they lend themselves better to combos, that makes sense. But I have seen people in the past, and I think even like I saw someone say this about these pants, which I think is completely incorrect, but they say like without stripes or without anything like that, it kind of just makes them look plain. And then they said like with that combining with the socks, they just look like leggings, which I don't see how you can see these pictures and say that, but I think there is something to that without much on the pants. And I like that this went from being a detail to being like a key feature of the uniform combo.
I think so too. Very natural evolution. I I'm the same. It's one of those changes, which again, this is why we don't design the uniforms. We just talk about them because like that never would have occurred to me is let's make the Polaris stars more prominent. And you look at them and it just works with the rest of the uniform and it works with UCF's brand. I'm sure UCF Problems is wondering what these dumb stars are doing on the uniform and wants them off. But
we're done taking shots at them.
Well, because it is like that. I realized it in real time. It's another example that ties in perfectly to the university. The Polaris Star is a huge part of the university. It's featured prominently on this uniform. The perforation of the numbers are little Polaris stars. I love stuff like that. I love stuff that you won't notice. I know that's dumb, and I know some fans who aren't super uniforms think that's stupid, and maybe it is. But I love little touches like that. That just because it feels like it makes a uniform yours, right? I love when there are little details that means this is a UCF uniform. You are not going to see this on another team's uniform. It's not another Big 12 team. Not another Power 4 team, nothing. And I love stuff like that. But yeah, I'm down for the bigger stars. They actually also changed the color on the white pants. They're gold stars now. They were black stars on the
yeah.
They did have gold they'd have gold stars on the light mode version of the pants, but I guess that's just the normal white pants don't have gold. I think I'm good with that.
Yeah, I like it.
Gold elsewhere to match it. Other changes finally on the Fuse template. If you don't care about uniforms, you won't know what that means, but it's going to make like 3 UCF Twitter accounts in particular finally shut up about that. And also the UCF logo on the collar on both uniforms is now white and used to be gold. I think that was the only other big change. I'm trying to find a photo that shows that. Yeah. So I think that's where we're at.
Yeah.
10 out of 10.
Yeah, I'd say so. I don't know I don't think I was ever expecting anything less than a 10 out of 10 when they, put this stuff together. I know I said, last time around with the white jerseys, I was a little disappointed, but I kind of expected because they saw them too. Like they obviously knew, like, okay,
yeah.
So I thought they were going to refine some things, and the numbers are obviously the biggest thing, and I love the drop shadow and just I love the different elements of the different eras, and I was curious, like when they put the little teaser out, I guess it was last night on Monday night. About I forgot exactly the exact wording. I probably should have pulled it up. But it made reference to something about UCF, like their eras. And I was like, I'm curious to see where this is going. Like I'm curious to know like what this is going to look like. And it's it's a story they told, and I love it. Like it came out, and it's perfect.
I'm gonna love with you, Bailey. That tweet came out. And it said, "Born from legacy, built for now."
There it is.
I got a little scared when I saw that particular messaging because we were talking about legacy. UCF has a legacy of wearing gold jerseys. And I didn't think that the current UCF athletics administration would ever betray me in such a personal and horrific way as to bring back gold jerseys. But we are just months away from baseball doing exactly that, or months since baseball. So I got a little worried. And maybe that worry should stick because I did see a couple of fans saying things of, oh, what do you mean we only have 2 jerseys now? What they said they revealed here are the core uniforms. So I'm assuming that there are still potentially other versions coming as well, or other alternate jerseys or whatever that will mix into this. So like maybe the gold conspiracy theorists get to stay alive, but I pray that
I'm sure the gold conspiracy theorists are Brian Peterson and your crew. I'm sure they are clinging on to that hope. I don't know that hope that is ever going to go away. UCF could come out with like 18 different jerseys for like one single season, and there'd still be out there. Wild Bill would be out there being like, they might have a gold one. They might have a 19th jersey coming out. But
and I'd be out there saying, why do you have 5 more jerseys than games? You got to change at halftime.
You got to keep everybody. Everybody on their toes.
I'm really happy with these, though. I am. And like I said, shocking take. That's why I keep pitching you. I'm like, what do you think? Because like I almost feel like I need you to check me because I'm just so
it's a rough dynamic with this kind of stuff because, of course, you love them. And, of course, when you throw it to me, I'm just kind of like, yeah, I like them. Cool. I like it.
I think I love them because I think part of the reason I love them in an obsessive way is because I care about all uniforms. Like, me about, like, I keep up with all of this. Like, it's just one of those things that for some reason I have mental health issues toward. And I see what other teams drop. Like Houston released uniforms this week and they were just a downgrade in every way imaginable. And they felt like uniforms that there wasn't like a lot of love or effort put into them. It felt like it was just like we're in the Big 12s, we new uniforms. And I don't know. I appreciate, and it means a lot to me that UCF has a team that puts love into these uniforms and tries to do what they think is best and tries to take creative leaps and keep this team as one of the best dressed teams in the country. And the cool thing looking forward is what we've seen here are a couple combos from the photo shoot. and 2 jerseys. Think of everything UCF's going to be able to do with these combos, not just with decals, which we know they crush. Think of the face mask potential now. They're rocking 3 face masks now with black, white, and gold. The looks they're going to be able to come up with this year for a team that may not be very good, but the looks that they're going to come up with this year, I seriously can't wait to see them. And what's even more exciting is that thanks to the advent of technology, in like 2.5 weeks, we're going to be able to make our own combos in the college football video game, which UCF confirmed and posted a video of. These uniforms are already in the game. Your university being next to EA pays off. I am like so excited I don't even know if I'll play a game. I might just sit in the lobby and make combos.
You just scroll through them.
I'm really excited, man.
I had a question for you. I just had this thought. Do you think, because I know there's approval that goes into this that you have to get from the opposition. Do you think for the opener, they'll try to do a first frost, or I don't know if you can call it first frost again. Like, do you think they'll try to do a whiteout and see if they can wear white at home? Do you think they would do that again?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Bailey, because I've been giving this a lot of thought. And
If you have. It's first time it popped into my brain. Of course, you've thought about it a lot.
I swear I've texted. Maybe I haven't. I have been thinking about this really since December. And I'm not sure. I don't know. I have no idea if that's something UCF has considered. It would not surprise me because it feels like it would just be too perfect. I would remind you that UCF had a first frost in 2016 where they wore all white uniforms, 4 new uniforms, ironically. I would also remind you that in 2017, you would have arrived to the UCF FIU game at the Bounce House. You would have been amped for the first game of the season. You would have seen the field painted white ceremonially, the white logo midfield, the white end zones. Then you would have seen the team run at an anthracite because FIU stopped them from doing that. So I don't know. I don't know if UCF will take that risk again. I also don't know if Jacksonville State is going to say, sure, we'll come to Florida in September and wear dark uniforms. But August, game. September? Is that
August 28th.
Yeah, so that
65 days.
It wouldn't surprise me if UCF inquired about it, but we will just have to wait and see. 65 days. That actually feels vaguely close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sort of.
You know what else sucks for me personally? Oh.
What?
About to show my privilege. I was about to say what sucks for me is that I'm going to Alaska on a vacation.
That sucks, man. That's really awful.
I didn't realize at the time I'd scheduled this vacation that I leave like a day and a half after the college football video game comes out. So God. I'm gone for like a week and a half. So I'm pretty upset. I'm basically going to have like a few precious hours with these uniforms, and then I have to leave them.
Man, it really sucks that you have to go to Alaska instead of.
Yeah, I realized the second I said it, that didn't sound good.
Instead of a $70 video game.
It's like, yeah, I'm so pissed I can't play my $70. It's more for me because I'm buying the deluxe version to get it early. And I have to leave it to go on a vacation. If it makes anyone feel better, I'm not paying for the vacation. My dad.
I don't think that's going to make anybody feel better.
Father-son trip, so yeah.
I don't know if that's going to make anyone feel better.
Final thoughts on the uniforms? Anything else?
I like them, and I just can't wait to see, can't wait to see them on the field. I think this oddly more than anything has just made me be like, all right, like we're not really that close, but like we're going to see these on the field in. I said so. August 28th is his first game. It's June 24th right now, so about 2 months.
You say we're not really that close, but we're not really that far. Big 12 Media Days is in a couple weeks. Then we got fall camp in not even a month and a half. Like we're getting there.
Yeah, about a month.
We're getting there.
We are.
About a month.
We're getting there.
Yeah.
Speaking of vacations and us returning to the podcast for the first time in a full uniform set, we are just going to spend the rest of this podcast catching up on stuff that's happened over the last week and a half plus. What I have enjoyed about this is that we actually can do a segment on these things because this is kind of the part of the offseason where like normally there isn't a lot to talk about. Like things aren't really happening on a day-to-day or week-to-week basis, but some pretty big things have happened. And now we can spend some time talking about it. Starting with something we have discussed or questioned in recent weeks, actually. I believe might have even been the last podcast when we were doing our mailbag about Terry Majer's contract and whether or not he'll get a contract extension and what his future at UCF might be. And then thanks to Sons of UCF, they have found out and broke that he got one already. He got an actual contract years ago.
You know what I love?
Yeah.
I love when we 48 times on various podcasts go, well, Majer, 1 year left on his contract, and it turns out he doesn't. But we had included the caveat multiple times that he might have gotten an extension, and he did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's, we got some of the summary and stuff from sonsofUCF.com. It is contract duration is July 2022 through June 30th, 2027. So July 2022 was like,
I think that actually makes sense in my head, though, right?
A year and a half after he was hired?
Yeah, but you got to think about he was hired to be the AD for a G5 school, and then they became a P4 school. So my guess personally is I'm wondering if the contract had something to do with that. Because it's for, if you compare it to the original contract, it upped his salary and everything. So I'm assuming it had something to do with that. But yeah, Majer is here through June 30th, 2027.
I don't remember, obviously, I don't have the room in my brain for this kind of stuff, what his salary would have been initially.
There wasn't a significant difference.
We do have the summary of it. In 2022, we got $875K. 2023, $925K. That jumped up to $975K in 2024. This year, he makes $1 million and then $1 million in 2026. Obviously, there's also performance bonuses in there. It says they're capped at $300,000 a year. What does this mean to you?
It means I wish I had his job. I could go for $1 million. I am going to take the stance, the very popular stance, I'm sure, with a good chunk of UCF fan base and say I'm fine with it. I actually think I'm in favor of it versus what we thought we knew. Never an ideal place to be in when your AD or your head coach or anyone is in the final year of a contract. We talked about in this podcast in particular, my concerns were this does not set up Frost for success if he's hired by an AD who has like a clear off-ramp in the coming months. Particularly because the Frost hire was objectively insane to any outsider. I think that there was a very real chance a new AD would come in and go, why the hell did you hire this guy? And that has never worked.
Yeah.
The AD and head coach do not get along. It's never worked. So Majer, which this doesn't mean anything. He could take another job and leave tomorrow. It doesn't mean he's locked in through 2027, but having a little more time for Frost to try to get football right, I'm under this AD. I'm genuinely okay with that. And I'd honestly be hard pressed to come up with an argument against that other than just Twitter trolling. Like I don't think the Majer contract is anything where if they wanted out of it, like if UCF wanted to make a change, they can do that. This isn't some Malzahn contract. Like it doesn't change anything from UCF's perspective. So I don't have a big issue with it.
I mean, I think that was my biggest takeaway is you sent me when Suns broke it, you sent me the the tweet or whatever it was. And I was just like, well, that's good for Frost. Like that was literally my main takeaway. And I'm not going to spend energy and time and whatever complaining about, anything Terry related at this point because it's done. This is a contract extension that was done years ago. So I really have, I have my my qualms or my issues with some of the things he's done in his time here, but this is setting up at least a little bit more of a runway for Scott Frost. And if I'm going to be as on board with the Scott Frost hire as I have been and am, then I can't complain about it, really.
Do you ever think about how, but they'll lose like one game this year. It'll be like the hire was a mistake. Do you ever think about how, I'm really not, guys, I've said this before, this might be my hottest take that I have outside the Randy Shannon thing, is there's not really anything that can happen this year that's going to move me on Frost's potential with UCF in either direction, like anywhere from 10-2 to 3-9, because this is just such a year zero to me. It's like,
was this is just last podcast we did? Did you say that on the last podcast, or was that 2 podcasts
I don't know.
ago?
Some of you didn't think that was a good take, and it even was referenced on Suns Today, and they said that I need to be Baker acted. So I'm doing well with my Randy Shannon take. I really think I'm right about that. I really do.
I loved opening up Twitter the next day when JP Gilbert had called you out for it, and then seeing I saw like the preview of your tweet where it said like after having a night to sleep on it, I was like, oh, maybe he's gonna like walk it back. You're just like, I'm absolutely correct on this. And I was like, I
really think I am. And if you don't know what we're talking about, I said on a past podcast that you probably shouldn't listen to that there's an argument to be made that UCF would have had more success if they had hired Randy Shannon than Gus in 2021. And the reason I think I'm right is this is how I decide when I'm right on things. Is if it's my opinion, it's correct. But I really, anyone who's called me out for this is upset with it. I haven't gotten a reason other than just, we didn't like Randy Shannon. It's like being defensive coordinator during COVID and running a football team aren't the same job. And I just really think with the way college football shifted very quickly from 2020 through 2022, as all those changes happened, all of those changes were changes that his style of coaching would have benefited from. And it's also not like I pulled this take out of a hat and was like surprised. Like you can go read any articles from that coaching search. He was discussed as a candidate. He was very heavily discussed as a candidate. It's not like I just sat here and was like, let's get crazy. I think I'm right. I really do think I'm right.
I don't, but
why?
We don't have to, because he's successful as a head coach the one time he was a head coach before.
That was an entirely different situation, which is kind of the point I'm making.
I mean, yeah, I get what you mean.
What did he do at Miami that is any different from what every other coach has done at Miami? He just went 7-5 every year. So do all the other ones.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't.
Wow, he's a bad coach because he couldn't win 11 games at Miami, even though many other coaches have tried and not been able to.
He went 5-7, 7-6, 9-4, 7-5. But your take is that he would have done better than. So he's basically at Miami.
You know what? That is better than what Gus did. If he did that, I'm right. If he did exactly that, I'm right.
Gus did that.
Say the records again.
5-7, 7-6, 9-4, 7-5.
Okay, yeah. If he did, yes. If he did that, he would have been better. What do you mean?
Gus had 2 9-win seasons and then went to another bowl. This is two.
He had 2 9-win seasons in the group of 5 with a team that should have been winning 10 or 11 games. Then he got to the Power 4 and couldn't do anything.
So they win 10 or 11 games. They win 10 or. Why are you making me defend Gus Malzahn? This is insane. What are we doing here?
Is Randy Shannon unemployed right now?
Is he still at FSU?
Yeah, he's still at FSU. I was hoping he was unemployed because I wanted to. If he were unemployed, we should have tried to get him on the podcast to talk about this. But he is employed, so I don't think that's going to fly.
Do you think he would have come on and talked to us, who we have no relationship with, and then him be like, "Yeah, I would have done a better job than Gus."
Yeah, because I'm literally I'm his biggest fan. So I feel like I could have reached out and been like, "Dearest Coach Shannon, I don't remember if you remember me. I don't remember if you remember me. I don't know if you remember me. I doubt you do, but I interviewed you several times. Basically, the 3 times you were available to the media over 2 years, I was there. I think that UCF should have hired you in 2020. Would you like to come on my podcast to talk about it?"
This is insane.
I still think I'm right, and I'm not.
I love that we did 28 minutes on the uniforms, and then within the first 10 minutes of talking about news that we were supposed to catch up on, we have derailed this into you defending your Randy Shannon take.
Okay, let's talk about this.
Putting me in a position to defend Gus Malzahn, who I have said literally 24 hours ago, people don't realize how funny Florida State football is going to be this year.
Let's break this down by elements. Do you think that Randy Shannon would have recruited poorly?
No.
Did anything in his time imply that he would have recruited poorly?
No.
And if he became the head coach, he would not have been calling the defense. They would have hired a defensive coordinator. He would have been the CEO head coach. So if they were going to recruit well under him and they were going to hire other coaches to do the play calling, where in your argument is, well, it would be bad?
They've recruited well under Gus.
Yeah, and he called the plays. That was the whole problem, was he wanted to do both.
Allegedly.
He would go, I'm going to be the CEO. This would be like if like the CEO of McDonald's was like, I also would like to flip some burgers. That's literally what Gus tried to do. Go ahead.
Instead, well, I guess the timeline wouldn't have worked out because it would have. I think if they would have hired Ed Orgeron instead of Gus Malzahn, it would have been better.
Way to make it about LSU. Typical Bailey.
Yep, exactly. That's what we're doing now because I feel like it.
I wonder. It is funny to think about, like, because I don't know. I think that's part of what scares me about the way things have gone. And I know it's just because like the world of hypotheticals, but it's not like there's all these hires from 2021 where I'm like, they would have crushed it here. Like, I don't know.
I don't know. It's what you texted me the other day where you were like, until UCF has a good season in the Power 4, like we're going to be scared.
My most pessimistic take: until they have a good season at this level, we don't know they can have a good season at this level, and that keeps me up at night. Yeah,
now it keeps me up at night too. Thanks for sharing.
I'm just here to spread anxiety.
Thanks for sharing that burden. I don't know, anything else on Terry?
I forgot that's what we were talking about. I'm glad you said I'm sitting here and I'm like, what were we talking about? Yeah, I think we covered it. Terry Majer contract runs through 2027. Shout out to Sons of UCF for being on top of that.
Also, new news. New stadium name, which we had made reference to in a recent podcast. It's now official. It's the Acrisure Bounce House. We
take a week off. A week. By the way, we've been doing this for 4.5 years. This is the 3rd week we've missed in that time. I checked the other day, we have like 40 more episodes than weeks we have existed for. And somehow the team gets a new stadium name and new uniforms in like the week that we missed. But yeah, we are now got the Acrisure bounce houses.
The AD not retroactively, but the news comes out that he already got the contract 3 years ago.
The 3 years ago thing is really bothering. It's just so weird to receive breaking news from the past. Like, I don't know. It's just very odd.
Yeah. So yeah, what do you think?
I'm thrilled, man. I think everyone's thrilled, right? I haven't seen any negative take on that. I don't know what it would be. I just think getting Bounce House back in the name is awesome, because now also the biggest takeaway for me is because listen, like between fans, obviously, whenever we talk about the stadium, now I don't think once I ever organically said to you, what do you think is going to happen at the FBC Mortgage Stadium this weekend? It was always just the
I also don't think you said, what do you think is going to happen at the Bounce House? I don't think you said that either.
That was maybe a poor example, because that does not make sense as a sentence. But I don't know. Like I'd say, all right, let me use a more real world example. I
have one, but so like, oh, I can't wait to be back at the Bounce House, or I can't wait to be back at FBC Mortgage Stadium.
Yours is better. I was going to say, I would never say to you, do you feel like the environment is declining at FBC Mortgage Stadium? But yeah, it's literally like we all call it the Bounce House. We all call it the Bounce House. All right. This is becoming a podcast of tangents. I've been thinking about another thing about Scott Frost, and it's unrelated to this, but I'm just going to say it really quickly.
What?
Sorry.
How did we get here? How did you get there in your brain? I need to know.
You're going to see very quickly. I got there in a very clear way. We've talked about how the Bounce House has had a few games in the past few years where it's been slacking a little bit. Hasn't been to the level we are, accustomed to. And I don't want to get overly into that take, because literally for the Utah game before the rain started, that place was like packed and loud for a team that was bad at football. But I've been thinking about, if you weren't here for 2016 to 2017, Scott Frost got to see 2 sellout crowds in his time at UCF. It was for the USF game and then the Memphis game the week after. And every other game was literally all but like 1 or 2 others. Basically every game was in the 30,000 range. There were lots of empty seats just because they were coming off that 0-12 season and interest had like collapsed. Is Scott Frost going to run out of the tunnel for that Jacksonville State game and be like, what the hell? When it's like objective, it's going to be at worst the 3rd best crowd he's ever seen as a UCF coach.
Yeah, I don't know. Did we haven't talked about this on the podcast yet? Or have you just said this to me off the podcast?
We did, and I'm recycling topics. I don't know.
Because I've heard you say this before.
There's someone listening right now being like, this idiot talked about this like 6 months ago.
Like last week.
Isn't that weird to think about, though?
Yeah, no, it is.
Like, I wonder if he's going to be shocked. I hope no one prepares him. I hope no one
warns him. I think he's watched UCF games and seen, like, I don't think he's
watched any UCF games. He's watched tape.
Yeah, I will go on tape.
It's not like it's showing like a nice, beautiful, scenic shot of the crowd.
You don't think he's seen any like highlights or anything?
What do you think it could? I don't know. This is a good question. Do you think a coach is watching highlights?
Well, I don't know. In the year that he was off from football, or 2 years, whatever it was, before he got the Rams job, he, as much as he talks about how much he loves Orlando and like loves UCF, you don't think he ever like flipped on a UCF game?
I will say, it's now coming back to me. There was an anecdote somewhere that Frost was like on the plane. I forgot about this, that Frost was on the plane with Nebraska coming home from a game and he was watching UCF.
I don't remember that.
On his iPad or something. I'm almost certain I didn't make that up. I'm like 99.999% sure I didn't make that up. So yeah, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he was watching it with contempt. He's like, what the hell? He's like, you guys aren't even good. You get a packed house. And I was here winning every single game. And Danny White was like, remember Danny White? What was the game where they did the big, it was East Carolina in 2017, the big packed sell out the bounce house promotion. And they did.
Well, the thing is, like, I don't know. Okay, even say he hasn't watched a game or hasn't watched highlights. I love that we're doing this now. There's pictures all throughout the football facility of the stadium from like the last few years, and he's I believe he would have seen them. So I don't think he'll
probably just think they're from really important games.
But he also has to know that we haven't played very many important games since he left, especially in the last few years.
I don't know.
I don't know either. But yeah, the Acrisure Bounce House. The other example of that, where I think it's a cool thing for the name to be like Bounce House to be in the name, is like, I think the only people who ever would say like FBC Mortgage Stadium were, I don't know, maybe like sponsors and stuff, but also like at the beginning of a broadcast. You know, they always are like, oh, from Raymond James Stadium, or like from FBC Mortgage Stadium. Now, when they say that, it'll be from the Acrisure Bounce House, Acrisure Bounce House. Which also, the other weird thing about this is, When this news came out, or I think it might have been right before and we might have talked about this on the podcast too. This is going bad right now. But how it said Acrisure partner on the stadium all this time, I never knew that, and I'd never noticed that. I think I've lost you.
You have lost me entirely, but don't worry, you're not here for me. You're here for the listeners. I'm sorry, I got really paranoid that I made up the frosting, so I had to go try to find it, and I did find it. So that is real.
Really?
It was in the. I'm sorry to derail you immediately. That we can talk about whatever the hell you were saying. I was listening about the whole Acrisure partners, but when UCF posted that oral history thing of the 25-0 win streak, it was actually the worst possible thing that I could have. He was watching the injury game with on the plane back from a Nebraska game.
Yeah, that is the worst game he could have been watching.
Which, like, thrilled Frost is the coach here, but, like, was that a red flag for Nebraska in any way that, like, their game's over and he's immediately, like, watching his old team? I don't know. Like, I don't know how normal that is. I just don't know enough about, like, what being a head coach is like. Because
that would have been
the year after. And it's
but I also mean, like, they didn't go to a bowl game that year, so the season would have been over when he was watching that game.
Oh, that's a good point.
Like, Nebraska will have just finished their last game of the season, so it's not like they could be like, he should have been watching.
Also, literally a team entirely made of players he recruited to UCF. Like, literally, it's like his guys. But anyway.
And a quarterback who he has called like his little brother. So I don't think
my biggest fear in life is saying something on this podcast I'm like not supposed to or allowed to say. And I was like, did someone tell me that? And I wasn't. But no, that was literally from a public article. So yeah, Scott Frost, noted UCF watcher.
That wasn't even a home game either, so it doesn't really. Yeah,
right. There were more. He saw more UCF fans at USF Stadium than he saw for almost all his UCF games. There were like 30,000 UCF fans at that game. But anyway, yes.
I'm moving on from all that because we just have to get through the rest of this. It's just a sprint to the finish line now. A lot of recruiting stuff is going on since the last podcast. Even I think the day of, they did that podcast in the mailbag on a Sunday, and like an hour later, or not even an hour later, I think you texted me like right after we got off. And you're like, "Oh, this happened during the podcast." Yeah. They have gotten a few commits. That one that I'm talking about was 3-star running back Kaj Baker. They also got 3-star defensive lineman Isaiah McNish, 4-star edge rusher Alhassan Idrisu, 3-star offensive lineman Amon Williams, 3-star linebacker Matthew Acapenti, and linebacker Preston Hall, who right now doesn't have any stars. I think he finally does have a 247 account, or not account, but a recruiting page. So all that happened, and then UCF also lost 2 commits. 3-star linebacker Antoine Sharp decommitted from UCF and committed to West Virginia, and then 4-star wide receiver Tyron Wortham decommitted from UCF and committed to Michigan State. Got all that?
Yeah.
It's a lot's been going on.
It's like I said, we're gonna do a recruiting podcast, guys.
This is becoming a new bit of ours. Where we're just
no. Okay, so full disclosure, that was gonna be the podcast this week.
Yeah,
and then UCF dropped the uniform, so we did all the research and had all this stuff, and then something far more important than the players came up, and that was the uniform. So we focused on that instead. But we will do a recruiting podcast. Do you want to drop your take?
My
that we
take
were discussing before we got on the podcast.
It's a half-baked take that I've, with permission, stolen from someone else.
Yeah.
So I don't even know if it's a take that I fully have yet.
Okay.
But for the sake of conversation, I'm literally reading it directly from the message. About the best sign of Frost's recruiting strategy of unheralded recruits is that Power 4 programs are flipping these guys, means he's on to something.
I have some issues with this take.
I know you do, because we talked about this before we got on the podcast, and I think you wanted me to just bring it up just now, just so that you can immediately shoot it down.
That is correct. It's like
your facts.
It's like, I don't even know what it's like. I don't know. I was like, can you please throw up a softball so I can whack it out of the park? The problem with that philosophy is that the guys who are decommitting are like the few guys they were getting that actually were nationally prominent. Like, those are the guys flipping. It's not like the gems necessarily. I will say Alhassan Idrisu, or however you say his name, I literally looked up the pronunciation and already forgot. That is a really, really, really good get. And that's the type of get where I can see where UCF is coming from with the strategy. He's like a borderline top 400 player, which if you don't follow recruiting is a really big deal. He's only played football for a year, and he's garnered a lot of big-time P4 interest because everything about him implies, oh, this guy could be like a game wrecker. And UCF's in a position where They have his commitment right now. We'll see if they can hold on. This is a guy who's going to take some time to develop, and UCF is willing to put in that patience, and maybe not every program is, and that's where they can get a leg up. So situations like that, I'm down for. And we'll talk about it more when we do our mythical recruiting podcast, but it's not like the situation isn't dire. It's not like they're last in the Big 12 in recruiting. Colorado has 2 high school commits right now, by the way. Just a little side note there, but they're not last in the Big 12. They're doing fine. It's just nothing like the Gus era. And I'm just, it needs to work. Like if they're going to pursue the strategy of not going after too many big guys and focusing more on finding their guys, it needs to work, because if it doesn't, like there's no talent to fall back on, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. And I think it's so interesting, and I'm fascinated to figure out if it will work or how it will work, because like what you just said, I wanted to hit back and be like, well, yeah, it's nothing like what Gus was doing, but also that didn't end up working anyway because he didn't play the guys.
Yeah.
Our guys have all transferred by now. But yeah, you're right. I mean, it has to pay off. And I don't know.
I don't want to do the recruiting podcast before the recruiting podcast, but the Frost strategy is clearly one of like mining gems and focusing on development. And that's what they did in 2016 and 2017. It worked. But part of the reason I'm worried is like what worked back then was a different type of college football. Like if they did the exact same things, but if they did the exact same things in 2016, but with today's rules, 2017 never happens because Mackenzie Milton is not here in 2017. He's been open about the fact that he was very close to transfer. He would have, without a doubt, if there were different rules in place. So I'm just not sure the wait and develop works in this era, because what are your 2 options? They either play as a freshman and they look really good and there's a chance they get poached, or they don't play as a freshman, so they leave. I don't know.
Are they last in the Big 12 now?
In recruiting? No.
They're not.
Well, they weren't yesterday.
They might be now. I don't know.
How is that possible? Colorado has.
I don't know. I'm looking at, and I'm you follow this more closely than I do.
There's absolutely no way they're last in the Big 12.
Oh, I'm lying.
You're looking at 26, aren't you?
I am looking at 25.
Oh, you're looking. Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah, we are in
2026.
They are not. They're third to last. Get it right.
Okay. Oh, that's it. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
They're 56th nationally, 14th in the Big 12.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I don't know. I don't know how much to care about this stuff anymore. College football's changed so much that I'm like, I don't know.
I said this to you the other day. I want to go back to when I didn't care about recruiting. I want to take me back. It's been like 6 years, but still take me back.
Yeah. So all right, if we're not going to do the rest of the recruiting pod now, is that it?
That is it.
We're done catching. We're done with that very clunky catch up on all that happened in the last couple of weeks.
I think I'm glad that we came back with our full energy. Like we were just right back in the swing of things of just pure nonsense, and I'm thrilled about that.
Where like the best analysis on this podcast so far has just been about the uniforms.
As it should. Let's be real, as it should be.
Everything else, we're just recounting the things that have happened and just going off on tangents about Randy Shannon and Scott Frost watching a UCF away game, and that being proof that he isn't going to be shocked when the stadium is full for Jacksonville State.
I need that like Domino's meme of the guy like knocking down the Domino's, and it's like UCF reveals new uniforms podcast. Randy Shannon would have been good at UCF. Like it does not make sense, but we're here to not make sense.
I also don't have a football news segment this week because that was the football news segment. So we're on to pick that portal player.
Pick that portal player. Let's go ahead and ease back in. Pick that portal player. If you're unfamiliar, is a game where I give Bailey 3 hints about a player who transfer portaled to UCF, and Bailey guesses who that player is. Giving you 3 things for this player. I will remind Bailey again, please do not guess until I've said all 3 hints, even if you think you know it. This player appeared in 23 games for UCF, rushed for, in those 23 games, 1,367 yards. That's a sturdy 5.2 yards per carry. And he threw the ball in UCF's 2022 game against Tulane.
It was Isaiah Bowser.
Wrong. It was
You're
John
a liar.
Rice
I hate you.
It was John Rice Plumlee.
Oh, that's stupid.
I decided to be really mean this week. Yes, Bailey was wrong. It was John Rice Plumlee. So there you go. Bailey's gone silent. I don't think his camera's frozen. I think he's just upset.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. We'll see you next week. We'll be back next week with episode 274. Until then, you can find us on Twitter at BaileyJAdams22, at by Simmons, at Night Sports Now, and at Pegasus Podcast. Thank you guys so much for being with us, and we'll talk to you soon.
Bye, everybody.